Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. My name is Siddharth, and I will be a moderator for the next 45 minutes. Another round of applause for our wonderful panel over here. So I'm going to try to do something brave over the next 45 minutes. You know, our panel today is about when CX meets marketing, one journey, endless possibilities. So we're going to go and try to bring together feedback, algorithms, A/B tests, channels, and of course, WhatsApp feedback. You know, we've got an amazing range of experience here, from hyperlocal to product to AI to health to fashion to platforms and so forth, so on. So let's try to use the amazing experience of this panel and turn NPS, CSAT, and all those other emojis that you will get in WhatsApp into something that's insightful and actionable. So with that, let's kick off. First, we've got Deepak from Swiggy. Deepak, good to have you here.
Hey, lovely to be here. Thanks, Siddharth.
Can you tell us a little something about yourself beyond what we got out of the intro?
It's very difficult to get out of the professional domain and talk about personal, but yeah, I think most of my work has been on the strategy side. Customer experience is more recent, last couple of years. But yeah, you want to know something personal or?
No, just what's something interesting in your professional journey that, you know, might be relevant for this audience?
Right, I think with Swiggy, it's been almost 3.5 years. And to this day, what excites me most is we continue to build new propositions out. It's 11 years. We actually celebrated our 11th birthday yesterday.
Wow.
And still feels like day one at the company, right? We still kind of pick up extremely new problem statements and solution them ground up. So I think that's the most exciting part of being at Swiggy.
That's fantastic. I mean, you know, we were just talking earlier. Swiggy literally created this category that we see here. And Swiggy today is not the company that we saw it was 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 11 years ago, right? So I think that innovation, reinvention is a core part of what you all do. And, you know, if you look at it a couple of, you know, just a month or so ago, you've rolled out the high protein category. You yourself have been quoted to say that small everyday choices shape long-term well-being. So, you know, with that as context, I'd love to get your views on this. How do you think about customer journey analytics and VOC inputs surfacing the protein gap, and how did that come together quickly enough to actually launch a nationwide category?
Yeah, see, I think protein as a category itself, no one is surprised about the trend, right? It's something that a lot of packaged good companies are getting into. You see the likes of an Amul, you know, launching everything from a protein charge to a protein lassi, dahi, and so on, right? So I think the insight was out there. What we did differently here is we said, how do we address this in the format that the consumer is most used to, right? Which is food, right? So you do order food, you do go out and eat, you make food at home, and that's probably the most natural way to consume protein. Where analytics and, you know, a lot of voice of customer came in, we actually have a ton load of data that we mine. So while we build this category under food, we actually had insights coming in from our other verticals. So for example, folks that buy protein powder on Instamart, folks that are buying, let's say, a yoga bar, a protein bar on Instamart, right? So that was a lot of cross-business unit data that came in. It was also data which sat at the intersection of actual ordering and intent. So people are searching for protein as a keyword, right? We saw that actually going up year on year. So all of this kind of came in to say, hey, we actually serve, let's say, 50 million consumers a year. Which are those 5 million consumers who are actually getting interested in protein, who are actually thinking about protein and what it does to your body? That helped us launch in a very targeted way. So we actually went very hard with those 5 million consumers. So that was sort of one. Where a lot of consumer feedback also came in, very, very interesting pieces that we did, right? So usually when you order in Swiggy, and I'm sure all of you are consumers, you think about, okay, what cuisine do I want to eat? Or what restaurant do I want to order from? Interestingly, the journeys that you see here is, everyone knows this rule more or less, saying if my body weight is X, I need to have at least 0.8 times X grams of protein. Yep. That's actually what you see on the journey here, right? So the selection is curated to whether you want 15 grams, 30 grams, or 45 grams of protein and so on, right? So that was what we kind of put front and center. At the same time, consumers are also mindful about calories. People also know that there's a calorie in, calorie out, leading to weight management as an outcome. So we actually put calories as tags as well. What was very, very interesting is we realized that if you have to crack this category, you have to crack it for veg users, right? It's very easy to kind of, if you're a non-veg eater, it's easier, I would say, to get your protein intake. But if you're a veg user, and which is what a lot of the country is about, especially in the northern and western parts of the country, you need to crack veg, and which is what we went after, saying, okay, paneer is the most obvious answer, but what about soy? What about tofu? What about edamame? What about pulses, right? Like very, very underrated and less understood sources of protein. So those kind of insights sort of came together. And finally, what we also built is like a feedback loop, right? So I've taken a punt that you as a consumer probably would be attracted to this offering. But depending on what you do on the app, you click those high protein journeys, you actually explore them. That's a feedback loop back into the system saying, hey, let me reinforce it more for you, and lesser for the consumers that do not interact with the journey at all. So that feedback loop also kind of helps us get sharper on the consumer segment we go after.
Very nice. And when you launch something like this, which comes with a lot of insight, it's really built around the consumer need, right? And you also have a captive base of users. How do you think about, both sort of outcomes that you could have, which is, number one, measuring its impact with the existing user base, what's success for you? But the other part is, hey, this could be a phenomenal proposition for new users or low frequency users, right? So as you launch this, how do you frame what is good or great for an initiative like this?
Yeah. This is something that at least now I take for granted within Swiggy, but because in my past roles, I've actually consulted for a lot of traditional organizations, including the likes of an ABFRL, right, and a bunch of FMCG clients. So it's very simple in Swiggy, right? When you actually launch something, you set up an AB, right? So let's say I have 100 consumers who I have identified as, potentially interested in protein. I would, show this to 90 consumers and not show anything to 10 consumers, and I would just see the difference. And yeah, I mean, test and control, and we call it reverse AB, right? Because here your test set is 90%, right? So I think repeat rate is something that we saw jump up, and we knew that that's what we want to go after. Honestly, we call them NUs and DUs, which is new users and dormant users that have not ordered with Swiggy, let's say for the last 3 months. That we actually didn't set out as an objective to chase. Interestingly, when we launched it with new users and dormant users, we actually saw that a cross-section of them actually were interested in the category. They were exploring the category, right? Otherwise, our usual lens to it is discounts is what you need to give, right? But interestingly, a lot of those new users are interested in propositions like high protein, propositions like speed. So yeah, I think when we started off, we usually take this lens of whether I'm driving incrementality. And for the 90% that saw this, we actually saw incremental repeat rate, incremental conversion, versus the ones that did not see this journey.
Understood. No, fantastic. Hey, thank you for that. Subhajit, I'm going to come to you next. You are a leader in, I think, one of the most exciting segments of technology, really hot technology company. Tell us a bit about what brought you into, the position that you're in today.
As in the organization or me as a person?
Yes,
as an
exactly.
Organization? So I think, obviously, I was an out-and-out CX guy for almost 23 years now. And CX means, long back, CX obviously meant working for a third party, maybe a bank from US or international organizations, KPO, BPO, and whatever. But what you take on from these years of experience is what your customer means to you. What do you go ahead and how do you serve the customers, customer delight, customer satisfaction, customer focus. And I think all those things have come up as a new term called CX nowadays, as in the entire experience, the journey that the customer has with us from end to end, starting from an onboarding part and starting to the end when he has completed the entire activity. It can be a banking loan, it can be a product, it can be a retail, anything that a user buys over a period of time. Now, mPokket as an organization, obviously, when we started like 9 years back, we started from a 2-bedroom apartment in Kolkata, right? So our founder, Gaurav Jalan, obviously, he was from US, and he found out that we are, as in the banking segment, the loan takers or the banks or the loan givers, we have a very, very stringent set of parametrics in terms of whom to give a loan, whom not to give a loan. And obviously, it means that almost 65% of our population goes without loans because they do not qualify for the loans. Now that's where this concept of taking the risk, as in the risk appetite of starting something wherein we can go ahead and serve users who are, as we say, new credit entities, right? Because they do not have a credit line. So we started with students at that point in time. It was a very, very risky segment in 2017, I'm talking about. And obviously, the ticket size was very less, like 500 rupees or 1,000 rupees max. Because we also did not know how we will scale up, how it will mature. It was just a thought process, and we went behind it. And when it started creeping up, as in when it started growing up, and when the NBFC market started cropping up in the next 2-3 years, we found that, yes, this is doing good. And what we thought at the beginning, that the delinquency levels of these student users, because nobody gives a loan to a student because there's no guarantee whether that person is going to pay or not, because then you cannot catch hold of anybody. But later on, we found that they're the best profile users that we have in the market as of now. We have almost 50 million user base, out of which around 25 lakh users are active as of now, which is a huge count, and out of which I would like to say around 45% of the base are students, right? So that's how it started, and then obviously we moved into the salaried bucket, wherein obviously we know that people have a pay slip, people have a banking document, people have their employment proof. So it was a much more secured lending that we thought, but it proved to be wrong actually on the far side. Then we moved into a much larger market as of now in the last 2 years is the gig workers. I think, so I was talking to Deepak some time back that Swiggy, I think, has brought in this new genre of people working out in the market, which are the gig workers, like the Swiggys, Zomatos, the Rapidos, the Ubers, all these people who are just running behind, as in on the field with their bikes or with their cycles or whatever. I think they are the biggest, one of the biggest chunks that we have in this line of business. And obviously now with the self-employed line of business, also with the micro entrepreneurs. So this has been the journey, I think, of Siddharth, of the entire focus from a risk appetite from a student to now a huge market of people in different segments of the business that we talk about.
Fantastic. Congratulations on your journey. Tens of millions of users. And, a lot of these could be, from the segments you talked about, pretty price-sensitive segments, right? So how do you think about various data and risk signals that helps you preserve loyalty in the context of this?
Brand loyalty, I think it's a big thing nowadays. I think if you ask, mPokket is not only the one lending app that we have, or the digital lending app that we have in the market, right? So there are numerous now. So with people, our major competitors, Bajaj Finance obviously being the one and biggest NBFC that we have, and it's very difficult to even fathom what they're doing. But we have our as in competitors direct, like Credit Bee or Crazy Bee or Navi or Slice or all these partners. The one thing that Siddharth asked, how do this price sensitivity and the stickiness factor, especially because our borrowers, if you find, are very young borrowers, I think the Gen Z class, as we call them, 20, 25, 30s, who have just started off in their embarkment of life. So it is very difficult to bring in that stickiness for us. However, as we all say that okay, survey karte hain. Let us go for a net promoter score. Let us go for a survey. They send us surveys. I'm happy, I'm not happy. Google rating reviews, Google business reviews, Play Store reviews, all the social media reviews. So all these are obviously catching the sentiments. Very nice for us. But what we feel is NPS or CSAT surveys or social media surveys are not the benchmarks, right? If you really need to understand the stickiness and the borrowing pattern of these users, there's a lot more analytics, a lot more DNA going into it. So the major factors that lie here are the repayment patterns, right? How they repay, how they borrow, when they borrow, right? What is the delinquency pattern that they follow? And these are in different segments. For example, a gig worker has a weekly payout or a bi-weekly payout. So we know that, okay, these people are paying us, they're taking a loan on the 15th of the month, and they are paying us on the 14th of the month. So that's a repeat that is coming out. One more thing that comes out very strongly is the repeat usability or a repeat borrowing of an user. So I'm glad to say that we are having a 90% of repeat usage over a period of time. And that has not come only because of the customer satisfaction or customer service. Yes, obviously it is backed by a very strong team of customer support. But the major inline things are how we are shaping up our products in terms of the pricing. Intelligent pricing is very important, where we need to give a lesser amount of interest rates or lesser amount of pricing that we can go, where the processing fees can come down a bit, so that these people are going ahead and staying with us and repeating their borrowing with us for a period of time. So these are the major chunks of analytics, a continuous model, MLs that are running, lot of AIs that are running, lot of churn models that are running. For example, churn, we know that when this user is going to churn out, so we have a churn propensity model that runs. We also ensure that we do not go ahead and continuously poke a customer. If you see, for everybody, Bajaj Finance, every day you will get, I think, 100 calls from them. No matter what, you take a loan, you do not take a loan. You are actually irking up the customer, saying, bhai, nahi chahiye, band karo, block karo. So when we know that this guy has already taken a loan today, in the next 7 days, give him a cooling period, right? Don't poke him again and again. Sir, aur ek le lo, sir, aur ek le lo. Doesn't help, actually. And this actually irks up the customer, irritates, and says, nahi lena hai mujhe, nahi chahiye aapka. So all these small things, I think everything comes from a VOC. But all these small things, especially backed by very strong data and analytics, very strong repeatability analysis, loan to value analysis, actually helps us in the pricing bit, the sensitivity market, and also helps us in the repeat borrowing, which is a key to any business which has to increase. New users will give you a small chunk. 5% is my new user business. 95% of my money comes from old users. So that's how it is placed.
Fantastic, fantastic, right? You know, it makes sense, but sometimes we sort of miss these details, right? Thank you for the insights. Archna, let's move on to you. You know, in your storied career, you've moved from hospitality to now a hospital franchise. Can you tell us about, you know, why you joined Apollo and what you're hoping to accomplish here?
Thank you, Siddharth, for that question, which is always asked. How come you moved from Taj to hospital? Healthcare. Actually, I moved to Manipal first, and I've kind of worked in most of the healthcare organization, Apollo now. Taj is known for its customer centricity. And what really, baffles me even today is the kind of centricity came through on the 2611, wherein, I mean, they could take the bullet, an engineer will take a bullet to safeguard a customer, a guest. What is going on? I was kind of the ecosystem which drives that kind of a centricity. And I felt that in a healthcare, while treatment is important, a patient needs, besides treatment, a supportive, a compassionate, empathic environment to heal faster. This human angle is also equally important than just a treatment, diagnosis and treatment. And that's where we felt that India, despite having the talent pool and the lowest, provider and cost provider for medical, yet is not able to get, people for medical tourism, and they are going to, other places. It's just because this little non-clinical factor of customer centricity not being catered to in India. So that's where I felt that maybe you know, my learnings, my exposure from, you know, Taj, the way they drive the customer centricity, how can we culminate those hospitality, the customer-centric culture, and not just process improvement? How do we drive that to basically, you know, make the healing faster? And of course, the repeat customer, the stickiness that we talk about. They always felt that doctors are the reason they come back. Yes, they do come back, but there are other small things which a lay person as a patient understands whether my soup has come cold. That's what they do, word of mouth. Healthcare works on word of mouth. So a lay person doesn't know whether this is an MD doctor, an MBBS doctor, or robotic surgery happening, or this is a better equipment. They know most of the time their experience while they were there, how were they treated, how were they looked after. And surprisingly, in this industry, they just need little layer of empathy, someone attending to them and listening to them, because they are in that emotional state.
No, that's fantastic. And you know, as you look at bringing this Taj-style hospitality to the patient experience gap, how does one practically translate this both into narrative and into process? And also considering, let's say you take a look at the healthcare industry, maybe a lot of the practitioners there might come from a slightly further off point of view, right? So how do you practically make it happen?
Long journey to start with, because healthcare in India has done a lot for clinical excellence. Is the other part of, you know, patient centricity, which is non-clinical, where they're attended to on time, where they're even the family visiting along with them, are they been looked into? That it starts from the building the culture, start from the leadership, wherein what kind of parameters they're reviewing. Is it only clinical outcomes and P&L? Can we introduce what are the customers talking? NPS is kind of give you a trigger, but it can't end there. I firmly believe, and ours is a, you know, service industry where it is not a digital engagement, it is more of human engagement. And everybody tells their feedback, speaks, gives a verbal feedback whenever something is not met. Even in whether I got a water bottle on time or not, even that. Are we able to capture that? Are we able to not train people? So there are two things, two-pronged strategy. One is do process improvement, use technology to make a leap improvements which is required for non-clinical areas, plus relationship building. Both are important hand in hand to be able to move the needle forward. And how do you drive culture? How do you recognize them to go do extra mile to create memorable events?
How do you prove it to, for example, clinical physicians that, hey, net to net, we are all winning more? Because, you know, some of them could be more focused purely on clinical outcomes, right?
So I think even, you know, they are also want their patients to be treated well. They all aspire and they want someone to look into it and repeat patients. I mean, they're coming back to them. Sometimes the doctors move from one hospital organization to another hospital. When they see that, while some of them will come to you because you're the doctor they go to, but when they see their patient being taken care of in other angles and they don't come back and say, sir, I'm having a problem here, doctor, can you look into it? So it kind of builds the brand also. They also recognize. So they don't, all you need to tell them is your clinical outcomes is important, which is hygiene, definitely hygiene. But we are taking care of other things which will not come to you to bother you.
Understood. Hey, thank you for that. Nishat, good morning.
Good morning.
You know, you've had experience that spans platforms to now payments, right? How has that sort of shaped your views on customer experience over the last, 10 years?
Got it. So, when I have typically been a B2C marketer, and when I moved to B2B, the first thing that I heard from my peer group was, you're going to be selling benefits and features, right? That's the way it operates. Very dull persona is what we have when it comes to B2B. But I think a lot of the pointers that Archna and Subhajit made, I would agree with that, Because at the end of the day, you are catering to a human being, and in our case, it happened to be a merchant. And what, my learning throughout the industry for the past 14 years has been, all marketing it starts from the customer as the core, right? And when we reached out to those merchants, we realized, there is a bank of insights there to be uncovered, and that is, the same processes that we followed in B2C. So I did not see any difference. I think for any kind of customer experience, it has to begin with understanding who you're catering to, who you're selling to, what do they want, what are their triggers, what are their barriers, and how can you give them, solve for their pain points.
Understood. At Cashfree, some time ago, you all did a brand refresh with Rajkumar Rao, and Move Fast is essentially the positioning, right?
Yeah.
I think speed is really not just your product, but it's your brand promise, right?
Yeah.
So stepping back, how do you think about, you talked about the insights that you can get from merchants, customers, all parts of the flywheel. How do you think about taking those hard CX signals and then actually turning that into a brand story that resonates and drives value?
Got it. So, Siddharth, see, again, the story doesn't change. It starts with empathy. You try to understand that this merchant that you're catering to who's starting a business, it's a founder, right? There are millions of things on his or her mind. They want to get the platform up and running. They want to solve for end-state logistics. They want to make it, the pricing as the best as possible, because the market is so competitive and intense that if you are not giving the best customer experience to your end customer, it doesn't work, right? And there are two things that we realize there. One is, if you look at the industry, payment gateway as an industry is a very competitive and intense market with just 4 top players, and they control all the market share, right? So also it's an industry of very delta changes. There's always a fight on first to market, and nobody is able to sustain that feature or that tech advancement for long. So that is one factor. And therefore you realize that, you can't talk about just that. Second is, again, you go back to the merchant and you see what do they want. They want somebody who would make their journey easy. And therefore that lens of, can we give them a better experience? And hence when we did the positioning, it was more centered towards giving these merchants a better experience with the platform itself than, talk about how great we are in terms of innovation and all of that.
And are there any specific signals you look for typically to make sure the brand stays abreast of the consumer trust?
Yeah. So again, like Subhajit mentioned, those your typical your NPS, your CSAT, your doing social listening to understand what is the sentiment going on. Those are usual things that you track on a regular basis. But of course, the real insights also come when you see that your reviews or ratings are going bad. And you start looking at top funnel metrics that I'm driving this much traffic to the platform. Has my conversion started dropping? Longer term, you would look at things like, what does my repeat rate look like? What is the lifetime value of this customer? How good is my repeat rate? What is my churn rate? So I think those typical metrics. But I think the real unlocking happens when you talk to that customer. There's no replacement to that. Then they start explaining the problem in details. They tell what is working for them, what is not working for them, and what we need to fix. So I think there is no replacement to actually talking to who your target audience is.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lipsa?
Hello.
Do you want to tell this panel about the many hats that you wear? You have done a lot and you continue to do a lot. Maybe you could share some of your background.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Siddharth. And that was our secret. Okay, so, well, currently I'm heading retention and customer lifecycle for all the Aditya Birla lifestyle brands. And being a video jockey, radio jockey, an influencer, fitness influencer currently postpartum, which is, my son is 3 years old. So I have more than 1 lakh followers on Instagram. So I create content and I kind of, I cook well as well. So yeah, and I am a dog mom. I do a lot of things, and within all that, I guess I try to build my, confidence and keep the sanity level up all the time. so that I should not miss out on any of the challenges that life throws at me. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. In the build-up to this panel, I saw July 25 profile that actually calls you a customer lifecycle expert, which is fantastic. I think that's what we're all trying to solve for. And that's what you're doing today at the CEO's office across Louis Philippe, Van Heusen, and other brands, right? So if you specifically look at CLM, can you maybe talk a bit about 2 interventions you're thinking about this year, right? To sort of lock in customers right after their first purchase.
So loyalty and growth thrive when a marketing does not just speak, but listens, adapts, and delivers that experience across the ecosystem. Growth is just not acquisition alone, and retention is just not post-purchase communication. I think when a brand journey is stitched together with purpose-led CRM, data-driven storytelling, and contextual nudges, that is when a marketing and customer experience becomes seamless. And I have been working with ABLBL for the past 6 years, and my biggest competition for .com would be my neighbor, for sure, because we have retail and .com. So retail, we are quite strong at. We have more than 4,000 stores across country, abroad as well. But when it comes to .com, it is very, very difficult because the attention span of a customer online is very difficult to chase and retain them. So I kind of follow 3 pillars, which is engage, drive stickiness, and brand love. So when I say engage, I kind of try to engage my customers through hyper-personalization, which is basis their journeys. A customer comes, search for something, or adds to the cart, or is actually looking for something for the past 3-4 months, but is not buying, maybe because of price value or because of anything. I try to read that customer behavior and then try to connect back with that customer with a purposeful, let's say, contextual content, which might, lead to shopping or, let's say, the fulfillment of the conversion. Second is celebrating a customer. Let's say a birthday, let's say a milestone like an anniversary, or maybe a friendship day or Rakhi. So how well do I know the customer that I can relate to that customer through various occasions and events? Then comes stickiness. So every marketer or every business will have one goal, a customer retention via repeat shopping. So for us, the repeat shopping is around 58%, but which we do not celebrate, because we would want new customers to come in, because that is how a business would grow. But however, that's one of our major focus area to drive as well, to make the customers repeat, which is 0 to 1 shopping, 1 to 2nd shopping, 2nd to 3rd shopping. But how do we do it? So that's the entire journey that we have to build. Understanding customers through various mission happiness or NPS scoring, saying that what is the customer actually saying about us? What is the customer is actually looking forward to when it comes to our brands? Because there are so many brands. Let's say our competition currently, let's say I'll take the name of Rare Rabbit. So what is it that Rare Rabbit has when it comes to Louis Philippe we do not have? So understanding it from the customer, from the horse's mouth, and then analyzing it well with the design, with the product, with marketing, with category, everything put together. So customer experience or engagement does not happen just within the marketing ecosystem, but across the entire field and the company broad spectrum. I think that is how it happens. The last one is brand love. So if a customer does not love your brand, they will never retain or they will never repeat. So how do I create that genre as well? Understanding the customer collection. Let's say this is monsoon. What does a customer prefer during monsoon? How do I tell the customer without selling the story that I would want him to read, to know about? Let's say a very fair play of all the add to cart on monsoon, which you do not want to wear. That is something which is negative for my brand, saying that I'm saying do not buy, because I know that if you buy, that will be a waste. So that is how I try to connect with my customers, saying the reality of why and how you should buy. So I think that's how I have built the entire purpose of the customer lifecycle journey till now, which is CLM. Yeah.
You know, double clicking on that, right? And that's a great framework. If we sort of come to that second pillar around stickiness, what do you look for to know that, hey, I think now we can bet on these cohorts as being sticky enough to sort of progress them in the journey?
Very interesting question, Siddharth. And as I think, a fashion brand, which is, I think, one of the most, so unlike Swiggy or unlike Apollo, unlike mPokket, we have a lot of competition out there. So I think if you ask me, currently I'll have some 300 files of cohorts that I have created, understanding every bit of the customer behavior and segments. So how do I react to it? So it's a very simple analogy that I follow, which is the RFM. Let's say, do I want my champions to come and shop with me? Do I want my potential customers to come and shop with me? Do I want to actually restrict the churn customers, which is at risk to come and just get dormant? So what is it that I have to follow, and with what kind of content? So I think content and storytelling is one of my, I think, best hack for any of the marketers to follow, because nowadays WhatsApp is the only medium, I guess, the fastest medium to reach out to a customer, wherein we always keep on, it's like our fingertip, right? We just open our WhatsApp every now and then. And thanks to the Meta frequency capping, which Meta has done, if a customer is not talking to you for more than 3 times, the customer will not receive your campaigns. So now I have around 4 million of customers. How do I reach out to them otherwise? So what I do is, first of all, I have cohorts. Secondly, I build journeys, which is quick replies on WhatsApp. So I ask the customer to communicate with me instead of me chasing the customer. But how do I do it? With some meaningful stories wherein the customer would actually want to communicate with the brand. So here I'm not only chasing stickiness, but I'm also chasing brand love, wherein I have bought the customer's attention already, and then I am selling my stuff to it. So I think that's how the entire cohorting or the entire repositioning of your brand helps to, kind of bring back your customers' attention specifically. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Last but not least, of course, we come to Vindhya from Myntra. As a strong senior technology leader, right? Tell us about your journey in this space in CX, which could maybe be a very different vantage point from a lot of the other experts over here.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't get your question, Siddharth.
Yeah, what I was saying was, you come at this space from a technology standpoint, right? What is your framework to sort of think about customer experience, which could perhaps be slightly different from, where a lot of the business side perhaps looks at it, right? And then I could probably come into some of Myntra's initiatives.
Yeah, so I think they closely blend very well, right? So business, product, and engineering, I think all these 3 pieces, they work together to provide a solution. So technology plays a really big role, and we make the vision come true. And there are a lot of complexities that we deal with day in and day out to bring all the features or solutions live and whatever, the business envisions. So I would say that technology plays a big role in.
Fantastic. And recently, you all have talked a lot about what you all are doing with artificial intelligence, AI. Myntra has actually put out Gen Z experiences with Forward and so forth, so on. And you've been the driving force for a lot of this, right? Bringing really technology and AI first experiences into Myntra. So can you tell us more about how you all are using technology to enhance personalization and also sort of cater to evolving fashion needs?
Yeah, sure. So I hope all of you use Myntra app here. Yeah? Okay. So I hope you all love the experience. Talking about Myntra's technology, it is an AI-powered technology platform. Right from the time the user logs into the app, from the homepage to the entire user journey, is powered by AI, and machine learning models. And there are a lot of complex, challenging problems that we solve using technology, be it personalization being one among them, and also bringing new social commerce constructs, like the Ultimate Glam Clan that we launched, I think, last year, and also providing, say, a differentiated experience for, the Gen Z customers, which is forward. So if you look at, personalization alone, it is a very, I'll say, challenging problem to solve at scale. Say you have like almost 70 million monthly active users who are dialing into the platform, and you need to create a unique content, unique feed for each one of them is surely not a simple problem, and you're going to do it dynamically in real time when the user logs in. So this also means that, you can have two users who are same gender, who are, same location, and who are typing the same search keywords in the search bar, and still the feeds are going to be completely different. The content is going to be completely different for them. So how you do this, Lipsa mentioned it, briefly, that you have to understand your customers. And each one of them, you need to understand their preferences, their choices, their behaviors in the platform, what do they like, what do they don't like, and using the right models to get this subset of data and mapping it to the entire millions of catalog that you have and showing the relevant result set to the customers. And that's how you go about solving these complex problems. So it's not only about, and also this is not about generalization, right? You cannot create this solution for the entire cohort. It has to be completely different, say, for Gen Z customers, knowing, okay, what do they like, what are their preferences. So if you look at Gen Zs, they are trend-first cohort. They love trends, they are trend-savvy, and for them, trend is not like a seasonal trend. For them, trend is like this month, last week, yesterday, what is in Instagram right now. Then how do you solve these kind of problems? Because these are time-sensitive problems as well. So here also we use a lot of Gen AI models. We try to identify what are the macro and micro trends which are running in the industry and curating these trends really quick. And it's not only about identification of these trends, but also surfacing these trends from design to manufacturing and showing them on the platform right in time. Because you miss this whole week, then you miss the trend already. Then you're going to lose the purchase behaviors of the users. So these are some of the complex problems that technology can help solve for different cohort of users who are like in different regions. You target different solutions, and also which is user-centric as well.
Fantastic. Staying on trends and technology, what is your view on where AI is going to is going to intersect with fashion, technology, commerce, etc.? I wonder what you think this will be in 12 months, 24 months.
Yeah, sure. So, we've all seen for the past 2 years, right from the time ChatGPT came in, AI is going to disrupt every other industry and every other sector, for sure. And in fact, Myntra was the first one to launch My Fashion GPT, which used the ChatGPT APIs. So we will definitely continue to build on some of these latest capabilities that are coming like day in and day out. So few of the things like top of my mind is definitely the hyper-personalization, knowing the intent of the user, even before he logs into the platform, understanding what intent does he carry. Even before, say, he's searching the keywords, we need to be able to identify, okay, what he would search for. So hyper-personalization is one of the key things to look forward for. And the next one is, yes, Gen AI tools. So when we talk about Gen AI tools, it's not only about improving the productivity, also using these tools for any kind of content creation or generation throughout your application, right? Because I see there are so many use cases for using those tools for generating content. So that also will be one of the key things. And the third one I would think is conversational commerce. I think just like how you're chatting with ChatGPT, Perplexity, or Claude, you should be able to bring these commerce live into your app so they feel it's so seamless to discover the products into the platform, and they are able to understand you, give you right solution. So we already have Maya in Myntra platform. So I don't know how many of you use the features, a very cool feature. It uses ChatGPT APIs behind the scenes. You can easily discover products, and it will continue to build on top of Maya as well. These are the few areas. Then I will say providing immersive experiences like AR, VR, which is already present, but especially for a fashion app like Myntra, it makes even more sense to use some of the latest technologies to improvise on those experiences.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. And with that, I think we have reached time for panel. So please join me in another round of applause for our esteemed panel.